Hey guys, Joe Robert here, back again with episode 5 of the POD Pod, a print-on-demand podcast from podninjas.com. Super excited to jump into today's episode. I definitely appreciate the support on this. Every time I share it in my Facebook group or on Facebook or on YouTube, you guys are definitely supportive, and I appreciate all of the kind words about the podcast, and I really hope you guys are enjoying this content. So today I want to talk about why people fail, right? And this is kind of something that we've been talking through the past couple episodes, and I have some additional insight on it. And kind of in today's episode, I wanted to share, some of my experience with print on demand and why I think, in large part, I've been able to be somewhat successful and be able to make thousands of sales on numerous stores and sell multiple print on demand stores on the Shopify exchange, and kind of build up this print on demand little mini empire, I guess you could say, with the different things that I do, right? Like the podcast, podninjas.com, my YouTube channel, the Facebook group, my mentorship program, like all that stuff is a direct result of the things that I've been doing, not just with print on demand and Shopify, but just e-commerce in general, right? For the last 10 years or so. And I think, the biggest reason why people fail and they don't achieve success with anything that they do is that they fail to recognize their mistakes, and they fail to adapt to what they're trying to do based on their mistakes, right? So a lot of people out there, I've gone through this a little bit in other episodes, but a lot of people out there, they continue to do the same thing and it's not working, and they don't change, and they eventually give up, right? And kind of my story with Shopify and print on demand, I've told a lot of it in the past, never really on the podcast, but with Shopify, right? Like, it wasn't always like easy for me. Like, I didn't just start Shopify and immediately launch successful Facebook ads and successful products and all that. Like, this thing, it took a lot of work. It took a lot of, studying and learning and absorbing information and trial and error, right? Like, over and over again. And one of the things that I really had to do is I had to look at what was working in my business and what wasn't. And kind of in this episode, I want to give you guys a little bit of a story and some background about one of the Shopify stores that I opened once and failed miserably with. It was a print-on-demand store. I sold only phone cases. It was called viralphonecases.com. Great domain name that I still own. If anyone wants to buy it from me, let me know. But it was a great little store, right? Like, great little domain. Let me take a sip of water. Great little domain name, right? I thought it was, the next big thing, right? Like, I thought it was gonna be my, new success, right? Starting this viralphonecase.com store. I was selling only cell phone cases for all types of different phones, all types of different phone cases, right? Like, really nice cases that I was finding, through apps like Printful, and some cheaper ones from Printify, and even some, wallet cases from WC Fulfillment. And I just loaded a ton of them on there, right? And I ended up, spending days and days and days and days, almost a month, I think, like, getting the store ready. And I used a theme that I had purchased from themeforest.net. It was like $50, and spent a ton of time designing logos and writing product descriptions. And I got really into the cell phone wallet cases, right? Like, I was really into those from WC Fulfillment and trying to sell these. And this was like when that app first came out. It was when I started using it. I think their only product at the time was a cell phone wallet case. If I am not mistaken, they might have had one or two other things like wallets and women's wallets and stuff. But this was a long time ago, so it was a relatively new app. And I started the store, right? And I was running ads, and I was getting a little bit of traffic to the store, and then I would find a winning product. I'd change it up a little bit, get even more traffic to the store. And what I found was I was getting tons of people to my store and not converting them on there to make a purchase, right? Like, I was doing what most people do, right? They launch Facebook ads, they get a ton of people to their store, and then they don't make any money, right? Because they're having people visit their store, then they just end up leaving without making a purchase. And this happened for like 2 or 3 months, right? And I never, like, I did make sales here and there, but I never had a campaign that really took off, and I never had a product that was really successful. And I ended up closing down the store about 2 or 3 months into having it open because it wasn't successful. And I ended up moving on and starting a new store, and I was fine. And I made a ton of sales, and this was actually after I've told the story first a little bit about my recovery t-shirt store. I've told a story about that. Like, this was after that. This was kind of like in the middle of Shopify. And what I realized, guys, the reason why this viral phone cases store failed is because I wasn't focusing on selling my niche the product that they wanted. And what I was doing that I noticed is I was selling in niches like hunting and fishing, and I even targeted people who were members of like unions, so like trade unions like carpenters and electricians and stuff like that. I started to target them, and I was selling them cell phone wallet cases, right? And the problem is most of these people within those niches, they don't want a cell phone wallet case, right? Like, they'd probably go for like a t-shirt or a hoodie or something like that. And I was trying to sell them something that they really didn't want, and that's why they were coming to my store, right? Because they were seeing the ad and the design resonated with them. But once they got to the store, they realized that they really didn't want a cell phone wallet case. And, even though I shut down that store, having that mentality, right? Like, knowing like, hey, these people that are coming to my store, I need to sell them a product that they actually want to buy. And going forward with that mentality was one of the things that I was able to shift. And, throughout the rest of that year is where I really, was able to have a ton of success with print on demand. I was usually, selling items that were perfect for the person I was trying to target. And I see a lot of people, right? They don't do that. A lot of people, reach out to me and they say, hey, can you take a look at my store? I'm getting traffic and not getting any sales. And I agree. Like, I usually do look at people's stores when they ask me, and I give them a few tips. I don't spend a ton of time because I have a lot of stuff going on, but I usually do look at their store and try to give them a little bit of insight to what I'm seeing. And, some of the things that I see is like somebody selling, a hooded blanket to like the karate niche, or selling a wallet phone case to someone who rides motorcycles, right? And that's never going to work, because someone who rides motorcycles probably doesn't want a wallet cell phone case. That's a pretty girly item, and whoever that biker is that you're targeting, most likely they are probably like 35 years old and they're male, right? So that person might not want the cell phone wallet case. And then on the flip side, the same thing for the hooded blanket, right? Like, you probably, if you're selling a hooded blanket, you probably want to sell that to a woman, and most likely like an older woman, like a mom, right? Like, a mom would be the perfect buyer for a hooded blanket. And that's something that I see time and time again. People get really caught up in, they want to sell a certain product, and they just try to make that product work for every niche, and that's not the way to do it. And if you guys do not learn from your mistakes and adapt and change, you guys are never going to improve. And it's not only about picking the right product for your niche, but it can be anything, right? Like, it can be something with Facebook ads, or it can be something with your logo or the way you have your store set up. Like, sometimes people fall in love with like the way they have something set up, or they fall into this trap of just continuing to do the same thing the same way every single time. And unfortunately, like, that's not how it works, and that's not how it's actually gonna play out for you. You guys are gonna have to adapt. So that's really the biggest thing, and I see it even with people that I work with one-on-one, or even just today, right? Like, someone messaged me, and they messaged me on Facebook, and they said, hey man, like, I've seen your videos, like, really good stuff. I've started listening to the podcast. Super excited for all the content you're producing. Thank you. Maybe you could take a look at my store and see if you can give me any advice. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, definitely. Like, I'll take a look at it. And he sends me it, and I gave him feedback, and I was basically like, hey, like, I think you've done a really nice job with the store. The store definitely looks clean. I see that you've put effort into your product pages. I see that your menus and everything on your homepage is definitely optimized. Seems like you're building a pretty good brand. I see that you also have like an Instagram account that's attached to the store, and it sounds like from looking at that, you get pretty good engagement, but your designs and stuff, they're not really niche specific. Like, they're kind of just random. Like, there's just random. I'm not going to give away his store or his niches or anything like that, but they like, he would just have a shirt, and it would just have one word on the front, right? And that's not something that people are gonna buy. Like, they might engage with it. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, if it's a funny shirt or clever or something, like, they definitely might engage with it. But you're gonna have a tough time converting people if that's all you're doing. And I bring this story up because I told them that, and his response was, "Oh, well, I've seen other people do stuff like this, and it seems like it's working for them." And then I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, how long have you been trying to sell it?" And he said, "Oh, I've been selling it for about 6 months." And I was like, "Okay, well, have you sold any?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Okay, well, I guess it's not working then. Like, it doesn't matter what someone else did. It's not working for you." And his response was, "Yeah, but I think it's a nice design, and I get good engagement on Instagram, and I think people like it, and people come to my store and they're just not buying. Like, I think it's something on my store." And I'm like, "No, like, it's your design. Like, it's people, like, your store looks great. Like, nobody's not buying because of your store. Like, they're not buying because it's your design." And honestly, I didn't say this to him, but honestly, like, if you have a great product and your store looks like shit, like, you're still gonna make a few sales. Like, if the product is really good, you're still gonna make a few sales. It might not reach its full potential, but you're still gonna make some sales, right? And if it just because the store looks great doesn't mean you're gonna make sales. Like, I say this all the time. Like, a theme does not make or break a product, right? And I bring this up because here is this guy, right, like, asking me for feedback and wondering, and he's not making any sales, right? So he's not making any sales, and he's asking for help, okay? And I give him my opinion, and then he doesn't want to accept it, and basically is just saying, like, "Oh, well, I think it's a good design. People just don't buy it, and I need to figure out why." And what I'm trying to get at is, he's falling in love with the idea of his design, and he's falling in love with selling that design. But clearly, the people don't want it if he's been trying to sell it for 6 months. And the problem is, when you do that, you don't learn, you don't change your ways, you don't adapt, and you don't make the changes necessary to be able to make sales someday with your print-on-demand store or your brand or whatever it is you're trying to build. And that's true. That's what you guys have to do. You have to take an honest look, figure out what's working, and double down on it, right? Like, if something is working really well in your store, like maybe there's a couple of products that are taking off, like, double down on those and, really push those. And really, I say this all the time too, like, you only need one successful product to have a ton of money. Like, you can have one product that takes off and makes you thousands of dollars, right? So if you're having a product that's working, stop trying to sell everything else that's not working and double down on that product, triple down on that product, and try to sell hundreds and hundreds of units of it, right? Like, do that, get all that data for your pixel, and reap those profits, right? And then try to explore something else. But if you have something that's working and you're not doubling down on it, you need to. And then also, if you have something that's not working and you're still going after it, like, you need to stop and adapt. So that's what I wanted to go through today, is just really to focus on the need for you guys to change and adapt and try new things with your store, and try to avoid the things that are not working, and make sure that you come up with a solution and try it, right? So definitely appreciate you guys hanging out, listening to the POD pod. This was episode 5. You guys can find more at podninjas.com/podcast. If you guys want to see the rest of the episodes or just stay up to date, you can also find us on Facebook as well. So thank you guys. My name is Joe Robert, and I will see you guys in the next episode.